Hello guys and welcome to another episode of the podcast. This week was slightly different. I had a guy come in from Newcastle University. The guy is called Seyed. He is currently studying a course at Newcastle University, and he contacted us regarding some market research about best practices in web design and development. Seyed came into the office and we had some discussion from his own agenda. We managed to record the whole discussion. The discussion is in two separate parts. One part was for his research, and the second part was just a general chat about the web design industry, development, and most things surrounding web design. So this was a quick podcast that lasted about 25 to 30 minutes, just us generally chatting at our office about best practice in web design and development. So if you're interested, please have a listen, and we hope to hear some comments. Please share the podcast around. We're really happy to hear some input from any of you guys. It's a really interesting topic. Obviously, if you're interested in the whole web design industry, web development, then this one's definitely for you. Hope you enjoy it. And here we have our web design and development podcast with Seyed from Newcastle University.
All right. Please, what's your name and that of your company?
Yeah. My name is Glenn Wheeler. I own a company in Newcastle called Primitive Sense Limited.
Thank you. Glenn, do you specialize in any form of web design?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we specialize. Our sort of core business is developing e-commerce platforms using PHP sort of content management systems, PHP-based e-commerce platforms, things like Shopify,
that's right,
WooCommerce, Laravel as well. We use Laravel to build these platforms. So yes, we're sort of we do all areas of web design and web development.
Okay.
But our main focus at the moment, our main client core base is sort of e-commerce platforms.
E-commerce platforms,
Yes,
that's right. Glenn, how do you understand the concept of a website from a client? For example, do you ask for similar websites, or you ask for basic sketch of what they want, or you draw the basic design for them?
Yeah, so generally when we get clients to us, you get two different type of client. You get a client who doesn't have a website at all, and you get a client who currently has a website.
That's right.
So essentially, and if you get a client who doesn't have a website, the main thing to start with for me is sort of generating a site map, a tree diagram of how that site's going to navigate, because that, as designers and developers, that gives us a picture of their thinking and how they feel like it's going to work. Once you've got that site map together, we would then look at, we could then see how potentially that could be laid out, the templates that will be required in terms of a design, and that will also start building a functional spec for us as well, and we'll be able to, from that design, we'll be able to question the client on how they want things to work.
Okay.
But we will ask things like competitor websites, what type of style are you looking for, and we can present those in style guides. We can quickly mock up style guides, whether that's in Photoshop, Sketch, or even CSS and HTML.
That's right.
So yeah, that would be our first step, a site map, just so we can sort of envisage what the site's going to be about and what content will potentially go in the site as well. Because it's very important, I think, as a designer, to have content first approaches. If you're just going to design a website and you're going to put what you think the content might be into that design, it could be something totally different. Once you get a final content from that client, it could be something totally different, and the design would then potentially not work. And then from a point of view of a person who already has a website, it's a good starting point, because you can actually go onto that site and see what they've been doing over the last years. You will also, they will probably have some form of tracking data, so you can see if that person has had people visiting the site on a mobile device first, or is it desktop first. So you can then start making decisions on redesigns and functionality that way as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. How do your clients send over content to you, like images and text, or do you provide the content creation services to your clients?
We don't provide content creation services. We're just formally a design and development company. How we generally work is we do have partners who will do content writing, and the way we get those sent to us, we use a team Dropbox account.
Okay,
I don't know if you've heard of Dropbox before. It's like a cloud service where people can store files. So what we would generally do, we have a client folder set up on there. In that client folder, we have our list of clients, and then we would have a folder for each individual client. Inside there, we would then have a documents directory, and we can actually share that directory to the client, and we can sort of take them through how that's going to work. So they can basically drag a file from their machine, drop it in the Dropbox, and that will sync to us, and we will then have that content. We'll look at it, and we can then look at how we can manage that and design that sort of into the website or design around that content. So in terms of receiving files, we always use something like Dropbox, and we generally use emails as well sometimes, because people tend to like to write content in emails, and we can store those as well in directories. And then sometimes we do build the website, and sometimes the client really likes or enjoys the content writing side of things, so we would sort of build or install a content management system, and then we would allow them to insert the content directly onto we would place the content management system onto like a staging server, and they would be able to insert the content that way as well. Yeah.
Thank you. The next question, how do you send a client the first draft of their website?
So we use a web development workflow. So what we do, we work, if it's just design work, we will focus on doing some static layouts, so sketches first generally, and then some static layouts. We really don't go into that much depth unless the client actually wants it, because you could design, as you might know, the web is no longer static, it's responsive. And we've got all of these different devices we can view websites on. So generally, if you just creating a flat design, that's going to look something totally different. So to spend time designing for desktop, for tablet, and then for mobile, or even the other way, a mobile first approach, which is very common, it takes a lot of time to design statically. We sometimes, or most of the time, take those designs and build it straight into a browser, just using HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, and then we can sort of lay things out a lot quicker with code. Because if you want to change colour on a site, say buttons, navigation, with Photoshop, you would have to open all the separate files and then go in and separately do that. With CSS, you could create a variable and have a code for the colour and just change that, and it would change everything. Wow. So in terms of delivering those, if it's a static design, we use something called InVision app. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yes, I've heard of it.
Yeah. So we would design in Photoshop or Sketch, mock designs up like that, mobile designs, desktop designs, present them in Sketch. Then present them in InVision. Once they're in InVision, the clients can start commenting on those. There's like a comment system that you can use inside there.
The interactive.
Exactly. Yeah. And we would then get notifications of the feedback on those. We then have our web development workflow. So what we would do, we would develop the site locally on our local machine. So we would never work on a live server, because if something breaks, it would take the site down or cause errors on the site. So we work locally, which then goes through what's called like a Git repository. So you would store, the code would go into this code-based holding area, where it tracks everything that we do in code. And we can then push that to a staging server to present that to the client. Once the client, we then give the URL to the client. They can approve certain things on the design. They can then tell us about feedback. We would make the changes locally, and then push those up again to something like Bitbucket or GitHub, and then we would push that onto the staging server. And once everyone's happy with the staging version, we can then look to push that to a live server on a live domain.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Glenn, how do your clients provide you feedback?
Various ways. InVision is one of them. If it's design, it'll be InVision. But the most common one for us is actually meeting the client. We think it's very, very important to have that face-to-face, client-facing meetings, and you would set that out all within the budget. So when we do designs, we would then do a presentation, whether that's in here at their place. We can, you can see this big screen behind you. We can actually get our designs up on screen here on the Macs, and we can push it up there and present the work.
Okay.
They can then provide feedback. And we would note that feedback in something like Evernote.
Evernote, yeah.
So, and then with our team, that would sync across the team to see the feedback that's being given. Right. So that's the main one. But then I said InVision, where they can just click on the designs and comment, or over email. But the problem with email, feedback gets lost because you're backwards and forwards with mail.
It's very confusing as well.
It is very confusing, and there's so many threads that are going on with the email. You just get lost, and it's not a good way to manage feedback.
Exactly.
So, yeah, face to face, generally, or a phone call as well.
That's right.
Or we also can do like screen sharing. So using something like WebEx as well, we can do screen sharing.
I think you can do that on InVision as well. I think
you
it's
can,
the
yes.
latest feature they've got.
Yes,
yeah,
it's not been... Actually, I think it's just come out of the beta phase. Okay. Yeah, I think you can do that now on there as well. So
it's a very interesting feature. You can just interact live.
Yeah, and that's the good thing about the web. You can be anywhere in the world and you can be communicating with people. Exactly. I often work in different areas, coffee shops, everywhere, even on holiday. And yeah, we can communicate very easily through the internet. If you've got the connection, you can be contactable or contact anyone you want. So
that's right.
yeah, that's how we generally get the feedback and take feedback and give feedback as well.
Okay. Thank you. How do you deliver further drafts of the website to your clients? Again, InVision or?
Yeah, we would generally with InVision. If it's designs, like I said, if it's web development, we use GitHub, which tracks all of the changes that we're doing. So if we ever need to show an older layout, we can roll back code to show those older versions. With design, again, we would generally have a folder for our sketch files or our PSDs, Photoshop files, and we would create version numbers for those, so we can track those and just make sure that we keep up to date. Because you do get clients who, you do a first version, they want some change, and you do a second version, but then they're like things from the second version, but also like things from the first version. So you sort of, and we use sort of decimal place versions, so 2.1 or 2.2 or 1.1, just so we can identify the designs a lot closer.
That's right.
And yeah, we would then present them. So that's how we generally track the feedback versions and drafts, different drafts. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, and last question: how do your clients communicate any glitches or errors for fixing? Again, through I would believe.
Yeah. Well, we use. So I guess you're talking about this would be more functional errors rather than design. If it was design and there was problems with the design, we would create new versions of that to fix those errors. Because in design, you get clients coming back saying there might be spelling error and all that type of stuff, which is not really a huge concern. If they like the look of it and the feel of it and how it's all going to work responsively, that's fine. But when it comes to feedback on bugs, errors, all that type of stuff, we do use a tracking service with. Have you heard of Bitbucket before?
Not that one.
Atlassian are a company who own Bitbucket, but they have this. They have a tracking service that you can provide logins to a client.
All right.
It's called Jira.
Jira, yeah,
and we can track any issues via Jira. So the client would get some logins. They could note the priority of the bug or the error, and we would then be able to go in, take a look at the notes that have been made, and then sign that off. Once it's signed off, the client then gets a notification, and they can then also sign it off. If they're still having issues, they would then log the issue again. We'll get a notification, and we can then check that out, and then you can see a full sort of list, a full history then of all your tasks and your issues. It's just a good way to track everything essentially. But I do recommend teams to use Atlas. It's Atlassian, I think, is how you pronounce it. Is the company. They provide all sorts of web development services. things like Bitbucket and Jira and other help desk services. So
That's right.
that's what we use. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. It's the
No
end of
problem.
it. So, that's
Thanks for listening to that first section. We now have a second section where we went into just a general chat and podcast from some more questions from Seyed. This was just a general chat about website design and development, so enjoy this section. Again, any other comments or input that you might want to have, whether that's via our comment system or via any form of audio or email communication, please let us know. Enjoy.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Seyed Fard, and today we're going to talk about what is a good website. We've been trying to ask different web designers to see what a good website is. So today I'm having a conversation with my friend Glenn Wheeler from Primitive Sense.
Limited, yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So Glenn, tell us about the creative process which goes behind designing a website.
So I think these days one of the most important things about a good website, you look at it from any point of view when you're starting a project. As you might know, a lot and most people use websites today on mobile devices. So I think having a good process to be able to design for those devices is probably the first step. So looking at how you can optimize the website design and build to work on phones and tablets. Phones, we've got all these different size phones, screen sizes, iPhone 5s, and they've got these big iPhone 6s Pluses with huge screens, which are also, people are viewing websites in landscape and portrait as well. So just thinking about first, once you get maybe your content and stuff from the client, thinking about first how you might prioritize that content.
That's right.
For what's more important for the person to see on those mobile devices. And the second thing when I think about the process of a website is how you can make it as fast as possible. Not everyone has fast broadband. I know we've got 4G and stuff these days, but generally if you're out and about and you're looking to search for something quickly, might be a restaurant or something like that, you want stuff to appear pretty quick. But those people might have just a 3G connection or even something slower. So looking at optimizing your website assets, like images, JavaScript, CSS, all that stuff, how you can compress all that and make it perform as fast as possible. So those are my main two areas when I start looking at any form of website. It's very important to sort of think about that and build that into your whole process from start to finish. Even when you're designing things like gradients, how can you, if you've designed a gradient in Photoshop, how can you make that load on screen as quick as possible using CSS and HTML. So just even the smallest things, compressing JavaScript, compressing all of your images, whether it's a JPEG, SVGs, PNGs, just sort of squeezing all of that down so the website loads as fast as possible. It's a bigger task when it's obviously the size. You get different sized websites. You get your small brochure websites that have blogs and stuff like that.
That's right.
But we deal with some big sites, big e-commerce platforms that are selling hundreds, maybe thousands of products at a time.
That's right.
And making that whole process, if you go on a website like Amazon, how can you get that customer from start to finish, as in the person coming on the website and actually the person buying and checking out, how can you get that process as fast as possible? Because you need it to. And with big sites like Amazon, if you slow the Amazon service by a few seconds, it can cost a lot of money.
That's right.
So it's very important to think about site speed and performance, in my opinion, and device as well.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Glenn, tell us about one of your favorite websites that you've designed yourself and why you like it. Could you tell us about that, please?
I think that one of the most recent ones that we've done, we worked with the Always Discreet brand, which was a Shopify system. You learn so much from building these larger scale projects. So working with working with those bigger brands and being able to learn, because our team, I think an enjoyable project is a project where you can learn from it. There's always something to learn in web design.
Exactly.
And when you're working with people like Procter & Gamble and the Always Discreet brand, which are quite widely known brands, Fortune 50 companies, I think it's just really exciting. There's a lot of pressure, but I think it's even having the pressure is really exciting, because you get to learn things, and you get to learn things quick. Because if you don't, then you probably get a telling off. So I think those projects are the most exciting. So developing the Always Discreet website had its challenges. We had to put in place an IP ring fence, because the website only focused on specific areas, which is Newcastle and Edinburgh.
Okay.
So basically making that website accessible for just those two cities with a radius of about 30 miles.
Yeah.
So integrating those type of services, and then just sort of designing and building the checkout processes for that.
That's right.
Was just really exciting. It was a site we got on Shopify. We built a few Shopify websites in the past, but just sort of being able to figure out and integrate those, because Shopify is quite locked down if you're just using the sort of the basic package. With Shopify you can have a higher end package which gives you more access, but it's about £2,000 a month, which gives you more access to develop in certain areas. But we had the sort of started on a basic plan, which does restrict you in certain ways in terms of development. But playing around with the system, finding out how things work and how we can implement new services, connecting that Shopify site up with Google Cloud services as well, for sign-ups of certain free products that they were offering on the website. I think that was quite exciting for us, because it was just something new to work with and new to learn. So we can now take that from the project, and then we can use that again for other clients, because we now have that experience of building that type of stuff now with Shopify. So I think a good project, any project is a good project if you can learn something new from it.
Exactly.
I think we do a lot of brochure websites and a lot of blog style sites, news websites, which are pretty straightforward. But when something's thrown into the mix, it's a bit more complex. That's when it starts getting exciting, I think. The hard work is exciting. And I think that's how it should be for everyone. There's no point in going through life if it's all just going to be plain sailing. You're never going to learn. You're never going to learn any lessons. So I think
absolutely.
Yeah, just being chucked in at the deep end, really. I think it's a good thing. So that's what I would say a good project is. Yeah.
Thank you, Glenn. Glenn, tell us about one of your favorite websites built by anyone and why you like it.
Built by anyone, right? This is pretty easy for me, actually. I have I've never met him before, but I have a friend online called Brian James. Brian James Design is his website, I think. He's basically an interactive designer.
Interactive design.
Yeah. Do you want me to get it up on screen, actually? I can show you very quickly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, cool.
Obviously, we've still got that there, but I'll bring my laptop down here. Oops. Yeah, so the guy's called Brian James, and he did a website called... it was basically... I'll show you what it is. I just feel like Brian's work is on like a whole different level of with the web these days. You can do so much with the web.
Gotcha.
It's not just about going on there and reading information. Now my favourite website that I've seen to date is this one called In Pieces, by Brian James. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but I'll open the project and you'll see what I mean by his creativity. It's not something you see a lot of. It's built in, I believe it's built in JavaScript, using all these. He won so many awards for this project. He literally wiped the floor in 2016 he's a freelancer as well, Brian, and he wiped the floor with every award going. He was on the Adobe Forum, live Adobe Forum and all that type of stuff with this project. But if you go to explore the exhibition, the web address just for obviously the audio is www.piecesinpieces.com. It's basically an exhibition of 30 species, endangered species in the world,
Wow.
and he presents it on a website like this, so you can see how interactive it is. So it tells you can actually skip through the different animals, and then you can actually go into.
It's creative in a quite unique way.
Very, very unique, and it's a shame because since this project launched, he's had quite a few people copy the sort of style of it. But Brian designs. He's an interactive designer. I believe, used to do brand design. He actually used to work. He's from Newcastle.
Oh, really?
Brian. He used to work in Newcastle, but he then moved to Leeds, and he now lives in the Netherlands. And he's worked for some big companies over there as well. But this certainly was my favourite. So you can go in and see different facts about the animal, and it's sort of this. It's using like these polygon shapes. And it's like an explosive diagram, and you can just keep going. Then you can go on to watch videos.
Opens it up for you and then explains.
Exactly. Yeah. So his work for me is probably some of the best I've seen because it's just very unique, and most of his work is not a website that you go onto. It's just static and boring. You look at this, you've got all the visual colours, and honestly, I saw his process for this and the amount of thought and work that went into it. It's like months and months of work, and it's just incredible. Even his actual website, when you go onto it, you can see here. You can actually, it's very interactive. You can see how things load in.
Wow.
This was another one he did for. I believe he was working for a company when he did this one. It was for about all the James Bond cars. So when you scroll, it shows you all of the different cars from the years
That's amazing.
in the Bond movies. Very impressive guy. And if you want to get hold of him and do some research with him, I would highly recommend it. He's really, really good. So that is definitely one of my favourite types of websites.
I can see why.
And I'm actually trying to learn how to do that side of things, sort of interactive JavaScript, creative JavaScript and CSS and HTML. Because it's rare, and I think we need that type of stuff.
To be honest, I've never seen anything like it before.
Have you not?
No.
He's a very, very good designer. And a good developer as well now, because he only started out in design, I believe, and then he moved to a company in Leeds. He learned some coding and stuff there. A lot of his friends do work for Google now. I know.
Wow.
He's got a few friends who work for Google, so he landed in a good spot. He's learned a lot, and to me, he's only a young guy as well. But to me, he's one to watch because he's impressive.
That's right. Glenn, according to you, what's the most crucial element for a website?
Well, again, I would probably go back to what I said before. There's two crucial elements for me that work hand in hand, and that's how they look on devices and speed. Speed is very important, and writing and from a user point of view, speed 100%, and it's obviously got to look good and be able to be readable.
Of course, yeah.
But from a developer point of view, if it was from a developer point of view, writing good code, clean code, commenting code very well as well, because we often get projects from other development companies and it's very hard to understand what's going on in the code, so having good written code and commented code is a good thing. But from a visual point of view for a user, definitely speed, page speed, and just how it looks on devices.
Okay.
Those are the two main
elements,
especially in modern day web. Yeah.
Exactly.
And because everyone's just constantly using mobile devices, you'll find mobile now is a lot higher than desktop viewing for your general person.
That's right.
Sometimes it depends on the industry. So if you're working in the construction industry, we have a few clients who are based in the construction industry where you find more visitors are desktop users.
Okay.
But when people are looking around and your general person looking at the shop and all that type of stuff, it's generally a mobile device, mobile phone or a tablet device.
That's right.
It's getting even worse now because you can start. I haven't got it on today, but Apple Watches.
Yeah.
You can browse on Apple Watches and stuff now. It's
right, yeah.
it's in TVs as well.
That's right. Yeah.
TVs have browsers built in. Your games consoles, so Xboxes, PS4s, even your handheld PSPs and
PSPs,
Nintendo
yeah.
Switches all have browsers. So it's important. Even cars now, Tesla has a browser.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And they all
Good
use
point.
mobile connections. So, and as you know, if you've got a mobile that's on a contract, you're only limited on your amount of data you can
You
use.
get, that's
So
right.
if you've got a website loading hundreds of data and that's sucking the data amount out of that person's phone, it's not a good thing. So just trying to keep your file sizes down and keep speed up
Exactly.
is probably the main thing I would
The
say
main thing.
to that question.
That's right. And why do you believe that a custom built website is better than the ones you get through Wix or a Squarespace, such websites?
Squarespace and Wix are really good. They're good for your general user. We actually have a client who uses a Weebly. I don't know if you've heard of Weebly.
Not really, no.
I actually maintain it for them because they're not.
Okay.
We don't get paid a lot for it, but we manage it for
Sure.
them. But Squarespace and the other services like that are great. I really think they are. The game changers, and if people can get websites built pretty quick. But it all comes down to budget, and you know, I think it totally depends on the project specification. Having something when you buy these themes online, for example, because most people think that take WordPress, install it on a server, get a theme, job done. But the amount of time I've dealt with themes and people sort of contacting us to say, oh well, I bought a theme, it's not working how I want it to, can you please help? And the reason for that is these themes are just built for everybody.
Everybody, that's right.
They're not built specifically. People see them online and think, oh, that's nice, but they actually don't think about how their own content and their own functionality will fit in with that theme. And once you buy the theme, you will start and find restrictions. A lot of the themes also are not very well developed for mobile, especially when you start getting your own content into it. You look at these themes online and these themes are built exactly for this perfect square image or the perfect long image. Whereas you might start putting content in which might be a really wide image.
That's right.
And then you'll start finding you'll have troubles. So custom built sites, I mean, you don't even have to have a big budget for a custom built site. We're building one now for a film company. A designer did those designs and we got it handed over and we're just building it. It's on WordPress. But we're building the theme custom for them. And we're also then plugging in custom fields so they can actually control what they need to control.
Okay.
Whereas with a theme, you might have an area in WordPress called Portfolio that you're trying to use for your case studies, and then you just start finding problems with themes. They are good though. I wouldn't, in some cases they have been a good success, but I wouldn't recommend them.
No.
Maybe because I own a web development company, and
Right.
come to us, we'll give you advice. When you're buying a theme as well, that person generally had gone to a web designer for advice. They'll have just gone there and picked a theme, and then they'll just start running into trouble. I would say if you're going to buy a theme, if you want a website and you're going to buy a theme, just go and ask a web development company like ourselves. We will advise on it. If you give us some idea of what you want your website to be, we'll advise on that for you.
That's right.
And if that person tells us we don't have the budget for big websites yet, we want to test the water with WordPress and a WordPress theme on a low budget, we can advise on the best options for that person. So I'd definitely say always look for some advice if you're going to set up a website, because people will be able to tell you and give you good advice. I think we're what's the word I'm looking for? We're very well. We are myself. I'm very sort of. I'll help anybody if they want a website doing. I'll always advise. For me, the website stuff is not all about making money.
Exactly.
It's about building better sites and having better websites online, I think.
Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend doing. Go to a web agency first and get some advice on it. But I would always say custom built are better because it's specific to that company or that client, specific build, and you don't have to have big budgets for it. So, but then like I said, themes are fine, and Weebly's fine. Squarespace is fine. They're very good. They're very easy to use. The drag and drop features are very easy to use, And if you didn't have a budget, those are perfectly fine to use. You can build some good sites out of them.
That's right.
But you will, with those type of services, you're restricted into further developing them. So if you're on Squarespace, building custom code into them sort of gets restrictive because it's on a hosted platform rather than your own
That's right, yeah.
own server or service. So, but yeah, they're all good. I really do like those services, and I would never say anything bad about them. Really, they've done well to get where they are. And they're major brands as well.
Yes, they are. Yes,
they're good. Yeah.
Okay, and at the end, Glenn, tell us something about yourself and what you do, and how can someone find you on the web.
So I went to university, Teesside University, and graduated from there with a BSc in computing.
That's right. Yeah.
And then moved to Newcastle, started a digital agency. We were speaking before, it was Simon's.
Simon.
Hi Simon, if you get this at any point. I got quite a bit of experience there, but I think the reason I left Ready Salted I wasn't being challenged enough in the areas I wanted to go into, which was design and development. And learning how to program a lot better using different languages and stuff like that. So yeah, I moved to Newcastle and then did 4 years at Ready Salted, just over 4 years, and then went off. In that time I was building my own clients, doing a bit of freelance work and stuff. And then I left, and then I went and did freelance for 5 years, working with various companies in Newcastle. Worked in Europe, with people like Real Madrid Football Club, Durham University we worked with, Newcastle. And then this year, I opened my own digital agency, which is Primitive Sense. And now we develop e-commerce platforms generally so I'm a designer and a developer.
Okay, that's right.
I do both. So
I believe you've been traveling to Singapore quite a lot as well. I read your
I love it's my favorite
blog
place.
and
yeah. And I can take a lot of inspiration in terms of design from Singapore as well. They had a CSS conference there this year, which was very interesting. And Rachel Andrews spoke on it at that conference. But yeah, I love travelling to Singapore. It's an amazing city. I'm a big Formula 1 fan as well. I've just got back from Silverstone Grand Prix as well at the weekend. So I do take inspiration in terms of design from all sorts of different areas. Architecture is one of the main ones. I spent some time in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Singapore, which are probably the main places for good architecture.
Modern architecture, that's right.
Yeah, and I do
cutting edge architecture like you get.
Yeah, and the creativeness of some of the architecture, like the Burj Khalifa, for example, is just ridiculous. And you look at some of those buildings, and you just sit and think, how did they overcome certain challenges to build those and shape those buildings? And I take that into design as well.
Wow.
Because I'm not the type of guy who likes the old plain boring style type of website. I like something that looks a little bit crazy, like Brian's stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
That's why I like that. So, yeah, I'm a designer, developer, building e-commerce sites. That's what the company does. But like I said, we design and develop for smaller companies, startups as well. So that was sort of our bread and butter stuff, just startup businesses and small sites, and then just gradually building those client bases up and just getting a little bit bigger. So I love what I do. It's not like coming to work. I come in here, put the music on, drink lots of coffee and eat lots of biscuits and work.
It's a quite nice, cozy environment, and just...
It is, and if anyone wants to come in to speak to us, we always, honestly, it's a really open door. We have guys coming in all the time, and if you want to come in and work here, we do provide the space if people want to come in. If they're in Newcastle, come in and use a seat. And we enjoy the podcast as well. The good thing about the podcast that we do, it's all different subjects.
That's
the podcast is called Primal Something. Which comes from, I took the name from, you go back, you look at history, and the word something comes from nothing's ever really figured out.
That's right.
We're still, everything always develops, so we talk about anything. We've got a guy who comes in from Made for the Cage, he's a mixed martial artist.
Oh, wow.
But he owns a big promotion in Newcastle with his friend Dale Percival, who is like a mixed martial arts event.
That's right, yeah.
But he's also, Stephen is a businessman, and he was the guy who gave me the push to go on my own and build business on my own. So I look up to Stephen a lot. He's very positive. He works with a lot of people. But the podcast, we've had some great people on the podcast. Brad Burton, who's like a public speaker, motivational speaker, who just spoke at Newcastle Startup Week. We had Chi Onawura here, who was the Newcastle City Councillor. And yeah, it's just, I enjoy what I do. It's not like coming to work, and it's a relaxed environment. I just really like networking with companies. I'm really into my business now. I do love coding and design still, but I love mingling with business people, talking to people and all that type of stuff. So it's just really exciting, and there's always something new every day.
That's right.
You know, I just like being challenged as well. People throwing stuff at us that we need to figure out pretty fast. The challenge is always the good thing because it keeps you on your toes.
Exactly.
If you weren't kept on your toes, we would just be really bored.
And especially nowadays, we live in such an era that all the time you have to keep yourself updated.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you
100%.
stay behind.
Definitely with web, front-end technologies especially.
Technology, exactly.
You know, you take a week off work, you go on holiday, and you come back and there's all sorts of new stuff. And that's why I think it's very important, if you're working in the web industry, to make sure that you surround yourself with really good people on social media who work in the web field. I mean, I chat and tweet people who work for some major companies. I've got a few guys who work at Google who I chat to. Another really cool guy I follow, a guy called Harry Roberts. I don't know if you've know Harry Roberts.
No.
His website is CSS Wizardry, and I don't know if he went to college or university. I don't think he went to university, but Harry sort of travels the world giving talks and workshops on how to build faster performing websites essentially, and using CSS, HTML and JavaScript I think a little bit of. But just surround yourself with good people in the web.
Exactly.
Good people in general, I would say anyway. If you've got positive people around you, keep those positive people, and just make sure you keep in touch with them and keep in contact, because the only way to build a good business is actually be surrounded by good people.
That's the
and
key.
have good contacts.
Right, yeah,
Without those people have always helped me to get to where I am now. Without them people,
Right,
I wouldn't be here. So just talking to good people, getting ideas, asking for feedback. Feedback is always a good thing. Obviously, with social media and everything, well, everyone's connected. The world is connected, and sometimes asking for feedback can be, you could sometimes take it the wrong way. I say any feedback is good feedback. Don't get annoyed by people who give you bad feedback, because it'll only make you better. Bad feedback will only make the process better. Just if it is bad feedback, look at it, take it into consideration, and then sort of take a look at how you can get the positives from it. So I think all feedback and just general networking with people and surrounding yourself with good people is always good for business and doing your job. Yeah. And another good thing about all of that as well is with development and design, if you ever get stuck with a design issue or a development issue, having those people, those very knowledgeable people as well, you can get answers very quick to your issues.
Exactly.
Everyone comes across development bugs, issues, problems, especially with all of our different browsers we have now, and just making stuff compatible is a huge task, especially now with your browsers. So you've got your desktop browsers, so you could have Safari desktop browser, you could have Safari mobile browser, and they might act differently, and you generally do get stuck on things, and just asking a question, just tweeting a question, you'll get an answer straight away, or just Googling it, you'll get answers on all of these different forums like Stack Overflow and all of those different services. You get answers dead quick and you can fix things really fast. So just having that sort of community and being part of that community is a good thing. And then just reading, we have subscriptions to .NET Magazine, so reading those and just making sure you keep up to date with all of that stuff. That's the best way to keep up to date, because like you said, you can't keep up. It's too fast moving. So just making sure you're involved in the community and reading and listening. I do a lot of podcast listening as well. This website I've got on the screen here, CSS Tricks.
CSS Tricks.
Yeah, a guy called Chris Collier runs the website, I believe with a friend or a team now as well. But there's so much information on these websites for new ideas and new technologies.
CSS tricks.
CSS tricks, yeah. CSS-tricks-tricks.com. This is a go-to website because on this website as well is, instead of rewriting code, this website has all forms of code snippets that you can copy and paste and reuse, and then just develop things around those. Just makes development a lot faster because there's always something that you're requiring. You can never sort of just write it by hand.
Exactly.
So I think using services like CSS Tricks and being able to grab code snippets and you reuse them to how you want them to work is important for development. Because if you just handwrote everything would take forever. You might as well reuse certain aspects of code and then just sort of change them around to how you want them to work.
That's right.
And how you want them to perform. So, yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Glenn. So it was Glenn from Primitive Sense.
Primitive Sense, yeah. You can find myself on Twitter at just at Glenn Wheeler, or you can find Primitive Sense is at Primitive Sense Web _ on Twitter. So that's our social profiles. We're on Twitter a lot, and then you can find us on Facebook as well by doing searches. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Really appreciate it. So it was great having you on the podcast. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
And thank you for listening. Really appreciate Seyed contacting us. We really wish him well in his final parts of his course. I believe he's got a few more weeks left for this year, and then he's going to continue on with further studies. Like I said, thank you to Seyed, thank you to everyone who's been listening, and generally thanks to all of the support that we've had up to now for the podcast. We've started to get quite a bit of traffic on the website and on some of our channels. So, like I said, if you go to the website, you can gain access to all of our audio. We are working on a live version of the audio, hopefully in the next few weeks. But until then, thanks a lot for listening, and we will see you soon. Thank you.